just had news that I don't necessarily know what to think about. Forgive me, I know I look like a ghost right now. There's incense still burning through in the room. My wife and I are about to do a patron appreciation episode. And I don't mind being in the room with incense. She hates it. But it was, it's not time for her to come to me yet. So there was that. And I stumbled across this, and I got to be honest, I don't quite know how to feel about this. So I'm just going to recount the news, and her and I are going to talk about it a little bit more within the patron appreciation episode itself. And I'll probably do a separate video on this. Jimmy Dore, the guy who's, as long as I've known him, has been part of the Young Turks. In fact, how I came across him was on the Young Turks. Is no longer part of the Young Turks. Apparently, Jimmy Dore has left the Young Turks. I repeat, because that is somewhat of a shocking thing, even though, if I am not mistaken, I think I predicted this going back a year ago. I have to check the videos. I didn't predict it because I just came up with it. I had someone telling me that this is not going to last long. There's no way Jimmy Dore is going to stay at the site. That person had inside knowledge of it, and that person ended up apparently being right. I need to check the video. I can't claim it until I see the video. I think even at the time I said I wasn't necessarily in favor of this. I had a lot of my audience that thought this was an amazing idea. I wasn't part of my audience that thought this was an amazing idea. I like having someone at the network that didn't buy into the nonsense that the network was peddling, meaning I like having a contrary voice. That contrary voice, however, is no longer at TYT. Jimmy Dore has left the Young Turks. And I gotta be honest, the only reason I used to go to the Young Turks or the network was to see Dore. That no longer is the case, so there's that. I didn't see Dore say anything about this outright. I saw something that Cenk said about this, and that's kind of how I came across it. I woke up this morning, my wife, I swear, man, she has a habit of giving me bad news in the morning. And again, I don't necessarily know if this is good or bad news. I'm not quite sure how I entirely feel about this yet. But she says, people are asking you to talk about Dore leaving TYT for the patron appreciation. I said, what are you talking about? She says, Jimmy Dore has left the Young Turks. I was like, why do you think that? She says, people are saying that. People say all sorts of things, but why do you think that? Have you seen it? In which case, me, at this point, on this militant mission of trying to figure it out. And I saw this. Cenk Uygur. I had plenty of disagreements with Jimmy Dore in the last year, but I always believed in him and still do. He left the Young Turks network today, but he did it with incredible grace. I was proud to have him with us and be an independent voice, checking us, as he does with all media. Essentially, I like him gut checking us. I don't necessarily know if that's true. I suppose it's kind of like a funeral where you say very nice things about the person, regardless of whatever you thought about the person. But in this case, high class response by Uygur, however he felt in reality. He's given him a good send-off. Dore responds to this. And Dore's response is straightforward, to the point. It was my pleasure. Thanks for the mention. You already know the political incentives built into a situation like this, right? You have a network that calls itself a progressive network. And that progressive network has somebody who was, you could say, the beating heart of the network, at least from the standpoint of lefties. And that lefty, who was the beating heart of the network, at least in regards to lefties, leaves. Can't attack him. Can't smear him. If your network is going to keep any credibility at all, for the most part, the send-off that you got to give him is essentially the send-off that Cenk Uygur gave him with this tweet. There are further things built into this, right? From the standpoint of Dore is leaving the network. I'm curious on how this looks in a few months. But like I said, right now it's hard to know what to fully think about this until this kind of goes out. I have no doubt that Dore will be perfectly okay within his career. Dore has done an amazing job at TYT. And like I said, there are plenty of people who only went to TYT to see Dore. And so Dore would be perfectly fine. I disagree with the people that thought Dore had to leave. I didn't necessarily think that was true. He didn't have to do anything. He was perfectly okay. Networks have contrasting points of view within those networks. So it wasn't necessarily this, God on high thing. The issue here, though, is TYT is not just a network. It's also a political body that pushes a certain political opinion. And how much can you allow deviation in the political opinion when there is somebody on that network that is attacking the network itself, because the network is pushing, again, a political ideology. And a lot of the pillars that it was based on. Meaning, TYT clearly wants to be an arm of the Democratic Party. It clearly wants to be this lefty wing of the Democratic Party in MSNBC light. And you have somebody on the network that disagrees with that perspective. How long can it last? Either way, apparently couldn't last too much longer, because Jimmy Dore is no longer part of the network. 3 years after the network said vote for Hillary Clinton and burned its reputation. I'm going to end this here because we have a patron appreciation episode that is coming up. Mr. Broken Ass, hashtag Free Assange, hashtag Where's Sanders, hashtag Tulsi 2020. Mr. Broken Ass, Where's Sanders indeed. Peter version 1. He's gone because he was right about Russiagate. Well, I don't know if they fired him or if he left. I don't know which one of those things are true. I haven't heard Jimmy Dore talking about it yet. But he is gone because he was right about Russiagate. But Peter version 1, it is possible. You may be right. Mr. Broken Ass, we can still save him. Take to the streets. You talking about Assange. Which streets? I guess you mean both, in the UK and in the United States. Mr. Broken Ass, I agree with you, man. Any action that takes place, I would want it to be an action that has some kind of teeth to it. But there's no magical doors. And we've let this monster go on too long without having it checked. And that's within the Democratic Party itself, meaning lefties, and the population itself, meaning the rest of fucking America. Trudy, does TYT believe marginally better than the mainstream media actually makes it worse? Marginal progressive fooled more easily by fake progressives. God, I love that you mentioned that, Trudy. Does TYT believes marginally better than mainstream media actually makes it worse? Does TYT being marginally better than... right, I was saying it in a weird way. Does TYT being marginally better than mainstream media actually makes it worse? That's a fascinating question. Marginal progressives fool easily by fake progressives. God, Trudy, let's talk about that one in Patron Appreciation. Because that is the argument for whether to vote for Hillary Clinton or not. Is it not? Is her being marginally better enough? Is her being marginally better enough? Is being marginally slower than 100 miles per hour as we drive into the cliff enough? Is moving these deck chairs on the Titanic better? Is that enough? Trudy, that's a fascinating question. Trudy, my answer to you is no, I don't think marginally better is enough. But I'm going to end this here. Like I said, Patron Appreciation Show is coming up within the next, let's say, 45 minutes to an hour. So we'll be here at 1:30 at the latest. But Jimmy Dore is no longer here. And again, I apologize for the kind of piecemeal way this was put on. I didn't necessarily expect to do a show before we did our Patron Appreciation. This is kind of just an update. We'll talk about this later on the show, but Jimmy Dore is no longer part of TYT. I sent him a message this morning, sending kind of shock, like, oh my God, followed by hope you're okay. Because leaving any job is traumatic. I mean, for us, we just look at it as, oh, that's Jimmy Dore. But from Dore's standpoint, I would imagine that's a job, that's somebody he's worked with, or that's a company that he's worked with for the last, 10 years? 10 years or more. I would imagine it's somewhat of a traumatic thing leaving. Hell, it was traumatic for me leaving companies for 3 years or 4 years. I can imagine leaving something for nearly a decade. So I send him all the best wishes in the world, and hopefully he is doing absolutely okay. And I suspect that Jimmy Dore would be perfectly fine. Thanks all. I'll see you guys in about an hour. 1:30. Let's call it 1:30 for the Patron Appreciation episode. Thanks, everyone.